Welcome, everyone. I think we'll start this meeting with our City of Colwood Environment Committee meeting, Tuesday, February 20th. It's 2:31 p.m. and I'd like to acknowledge with respect that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Lulungan speaking people and are honored to have the opportunity to build strong working relationships with the people of the Songhees and Cosetzum nations. In addition to that, I'd like to say that on Friday last, we had kind of an official opening down at the flat top building. I always call it Goldfinch, 170 Goldfinch, the Arts and Culture Colwood Society facility. And we had a fabulous art gallery kind of opening. Francis, from the Indigenous spokesperson for the Indigenous Lulungan Nation, spoke. And I have to say that, it was called a blessing. And she stood and from the, no notes, she spoke from the heart about the land and described and painted a picture of the lagoon and this whole strip kind of from Machosen right on through to, almost this side of Mount Doug and her people that lived in that area and the two village sites. And she referred to the reef nets that they used to catch the fish and salmon as well as the little herring. And the way she described it, she just talked away. And I have to say, I was very moved. I think many people in the room were. And I just was very honored and wanted to acknowledge that took place because was deeply moved to have received that knowledge in that manner. And I just wanted to recognize that here because I'm grateful and long for more. So we call the meeting to order, and I need approval of the agenda for this environment meeting. Do I have a motion? Sorry, pardon? One mover. Do I have one? A mover? Yeah, Pamela. And all those in favor? That's carried. Adopt the minutes from the Special Environment Committee meeting of December 13, 2023. Recommend that that's be accepted, be adopted as presented. Call for mover. Sorry, you have a
Yeah, I just was wondering.
Oh, sorry, hold on. I forget. Are you on? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the meeting, I believe these are being recorded, if the link could be included in the minutes from previous meeting, like we're adopting the last meeting's minutes. Could we include the link to the video from that meeting in the minutes so that we could get a record with all the details instead of course fragments kind of deal?
Amanda?
Where the minutes and the agenda are on our website, the video is there as well. It's all within the same area. But if you find that as a benefit, we could do that as well.
Yeah, I just think a link would be kind of, if people didn't know where the website is, then they knew where the minutes were for some reason, then they could create that trail back. So just a suggestion, but I thought it'd be kind of more holistic picture if we had the video link included in the minutes.
Are we good with that, Amanda? Okay, thank you. We have a motion to accept the minutes. Oh, yeah.
Moving to accept the minutes.
Yeah. Okay. And any objection? Change that up. None seen. Well, that's carried. Public participation, number 4 on the agenda. We have some folks online. I'm saying, I think that I should have mentioned earlier that Charlotte Gourlay is unable to attend. Karen Woodland and Lois Gates, both members of this committee, are online for this meeting. And do we have any public participation online? I start with people in the room. Nobody online for public participation. Anyone in the room like to speak? Sure, go ahead. Kimberly, do you want to come to the mic and well, I guess you can wait until before 5.2 to read, or you can read it now. You'll wait. Okay. Well, we'll do it then before. Anyone wants to speak right now before we move on. So no one, and we'll have move on then to new business 5.1. We have pesticide use bylaw recommendations before, and Gord Beauvillier is going to speak to that for us. Thank you, Gord.
Thank you very much. I'm here today with the pesticide bylaw in 1995, seeking recommendation for adoption, as well as to start our education and information campaign with reactive enforcement for 2024. And I'm here to answer any questions if we have any.
Any questions for Gord at this point, at this time? Well, I don't see any. Any questions online there? I don't see any. I guess that leaves us with call for a motion to, sorry? Oh, we do. Karen. Oh, Lois will want to speak too. Okay, so Karen first, why don't you take the mic? You have to unmute yourself, Karen, please. There we go.
Thanks, David, and thanks for the report, Gord. I thought it was really well done. I really want to congratulate Councillor Olson, who I think brought this forward, very much in keeping with the climate action pathway, and noticing that some other municipalities introduced this pesticide ban as early as 2008. It's good for us to catch up, I think. And you probably have all heard of the book Silent Spring, which refers to the absence of bird call because of pesticide use, habitat loss. And that was the book that essentially galvanized the climate movement. So there's a very direct link between climate and pesticide use. The only thing I wonder, Gord, I may have missed it, but I didn't see any reference, like part of the report talks about climate considerations. And to me, it's even much deeper than that. It's about food security. It's about biodiversity. And I wonder if you have plans in the public information, which I thought is great, to maybe elaborate a little more on why this is needed. Because of course it can be an educational tool as well, and go a little deeper into related problems like food security if we lose the bees. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't have a targeted question, but I think she's asking for a little more in-depth comment on the effects that she.
Yeah, I think that, you know, for the education that we put forward for right now, you know, it's going to be on that basic, you know, information and education. But for sure, I think once we start to answer those questions and we start feeling those questions at in the Parks Department, that we can definitely go in further and even include more, like you say, dig deeper into the climate aspects of it and include more of that information for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Gord. Lois, I believe you had something to ask, just a question to ask.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much for this bylaw. It you know, it's very well written and understandable, and good research done. The only thing that I was left questioning was on page 2. It talks about promotion and education and the communication section. So the total amount being proposed for budget is $3,400 inclusive of staff time. And to me, that just is wildly under proportional to the importance of this, especially in terms of the impact that it may have on every resident. So we do want every resident to know about it, especially since it's something that can result in a $50,000 fine. So I would like to see something more robust on that. And even if it's as minimal as maybe including a reference to working together with other community groups to help to with the education and the dissemination of information. Just for example, there's Reimagine West Shore Communities working on some of these things. The public information day that the city itself is planning could be part of that. I would personally think it would make sense for something like this to go out as a mailing to every householder. Just my comments, not a question, sorry.
Maybe Gord, you can comment a bit on the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that, and that's, there's some good points there, and I happen to agree that we need to get this bylaw out to as many residents as Colwood as possible. And I think this is the start of that education and information for 2024, and then after we do a year of what we have going on here, and we're the money that we're going to spend is not a lot, but we could find that at the end of 2024, when we look at this bylaw and we look at the information we get at the end of the year, we might have to spend some more money before we start, handing out tickets for pesticide. But we'll be able to bring, more information on that program later in the year after we've done a full year of education and reactive enforcement. So it could be more money to spend later if we need to spend more money on education materials and that sort of thing.
Right. So the recommendation we see today is that we implement this bylaw and then conduct the education information campaign. So you're talking about that being more of an organic process, which would, if required,
we could see more. Yeah.
Where would the direction come for that spend?
I would come back to committee,
to council,
or council with a budget.
Then depending on the size of it.
Yeah.
Is that good, Lois? Do you want to make something further?
No, just I would like to see a commitment to do some outreach to the community groups that are engaged. Just for example, Scenic is one of the ones that's on the agenda today, and they would be another example of a group that could. That would have a strong interest and motivation to assist with disseminating information.
Excuse me, fair enough. That's good direction. I sitting here right now feel real assured that this direction would come in the it follows. However, does it need to be any more firmed up or more reference made in this recommendation, do you think, Gord? Or
I would think that if the committee feels like adding the recommendation to add more to our education and outreach program within, something that if we need to come back to committee with a budget, then we will. But I don't see why we could not reach out to groups like Scenic to help with that education program at all.
Do we add this to the recommendation? Something we could? Lois, do you want to word something there? Or does somebody want to add?
Yeah, just adding outreach to environment, to the community groups that have an environmental focus to help with the dissemination of information about the new bylaw.
Okay. We're amending this little recommendation a bit, I guess.
Sorry.
In terms of outreach too, I was wondering, is it possible to outreach to like landscaping companies and like a letter sent to the arborists and landscaping, so they apply a lot of the pesticides? And just the second point to that would be like maybe a poster for places like Canadian Tire and Home Depot and Rona, where they can say like updated bylaws in Colwood, so people don't end up buying these products and then just use them because they didn't know. So just kind of, and then just, sorry, one more comment there, Gord, is it, I noticed you referenced the integrated pest management plan act or plan or act. Could you just provide a link to that reference and when you do that, when you publish the document too? So just to go again here. Landscapers, arborists, and then posters at the outlets, and then just links to technical documents. Thanks.
Did you get all that? Yeah. I'm losing contact with the recommendation here. Do we get wording then, Amanda, for that? Bit of amendment adding on that we implement a reactive enforcement bylaw, conduct education enforcement campaign, including citizen groups, climate. I don't know what all did we get to word there to make sure everybody.
I might have come up with something. So that we would put another item along with this to say that further that staff reach out to community groups that have an environmental focus to assist with community education. And then your item would be that landscape, or what do we call it, stakeholders, and stakeholders be notified. Would that like enable a whole group?
I don't think they.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gee whiz. There you go.
I don't think the intent at this stage is to go after residential people. It's more so the distributors is kind of what I was gathering from the soft rollout.
Yeah, so with this bylaw, we can't control the sale, but we are allowed to or we can go to the outlets and, like you say, post a Colwood's brand new pesticide use bylaw bans the use of this pesticide for your information. And that stuff we will actually do. And as far as the so when I shop this around to the golf courses and the West Shore parks, and I also did for all the contractors who work for us, understand this bylaw is in place. I did reach out to some of the weed man and stuff like that. Not a lot of feedback at all, really. But I mean, we could do something where when we're doing is focused towards that community as well, when we're doing our outreach and that sort of thing too.
Thank you. Pamela?
I was also gonna make a recommendation for informing stratas, homeowners associations, because they contract out the landscaping companies, so that might be a good entity to hit as well.
So I would comment at this point that we were, I think that correct me if I'm wrong, but that the idea of sending out has been captured, and that we don't need to be too specific about capturing every entity. Am I wrong in that, or is it?
Well, I mean, we're doing the like through newspaper ads. We will have information here at City Hall. We'll have handouts and flyers for branch drop off. I think are some of the other ones we'll be doing, as well as social media. Will be I think the approach we take, but including environmental groups, focusing some of the targeted ads to and getting the information out there. The information is out there. I did, like the golf courses were phoning as soon as they found out that we were putting a bylaw in place. I was getting calls asking about the bylaw, what's the process that it was going to be. Will integrated pest management plans be required to the city for those big organizations? All those questions. So it is out there, and I think that for what we have going out to the community would be something I think that would target the whole community as so if you're a strata owner, or if you're you should see most of the information that we put out there. And then after 2024, when we come back and we want to start, if we feel confident that education and that information was successful through 2024, then we would come back to and say, we'll continue that education and information, but we'll feel confident that we got the information out there, We can even do a Let's Talk Colwood at the end of 2024. Now, once it's out for a year, we might get more response on the Let's Talk Colwood, where we can get more input, through the community. But we'll come back at the end of 2024 and 2025 to kind of report on the success of that information and education.
Thanks, Gord.
I did have one
Yeah,
quick
go ahead,
question, hopefully quick. For the list of chemicals that were on Appendix A, how was that determined? Like, were you looking at bioaccumulation? Were you looking at rodenticides and how that would impact the food chain? Like, what went into the decision making of what was acceptable?
That was a tough one. There's a lot of research on those chemicals. All of the above. I relied a lot on my colleagues who have already put in these pesticide use bylaws, and that was the real basis for how we were able to cut it down. And then what was left was just a lot of research into what those chemicals are used for. And the majority of them are, used in, animal shampoos, like for flea and tick, and, processing, and a lot of regular household items where it would be very tough to ban something like that. So there was a lot of information and research done into that. There are a couple of pesticides left on that list that are natural occurring pesticides that for most of the information I got was those are natural occurring pesticides that we were able to leave on the list. We would still hope that people would use, a professional, because some of these pesticides do have the control bylaw on them, legislation control, so they would need to be a ticketed person to apply them for a couple of them on there. But we were able to leave those on there because they are tools in our integrated pest management plans, so that's why we would leave some of those little smaller pesticides on there that were, I think there's 3 or 4 that are naturally occurring in plants and seeds and that sort of thing that help control plant pests, mosquitoes, aphids, that sort of thing. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I had to research for that.
That's correct. Is that everything, Ben? You?
Yep.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Don't want to do that. So we have we didn't even have a motion first that we amended, right? We have a, sorry? Oh, sorry, a hand on. Karen, go ahead.
You need to unmute.
Could you unmute there, please, Karen? Thanks.
Gord, I really want to reiterate that I appreciate the soft approach, education first, and the big stick down the road. I think, like you say, you'll learn a lot as you begin interacting with people responding to this bylaw. And I know it's not directly related, but I want to take the opportunity to say, I hope synthetic lawns are next.
Oh, what kind of pesticides are going to come up with for synthetic? Yeah, never mind. So is our next step to vote on to get motion for this? The recommendation as it now stands, it's changed, right? Please, Amanda, would you read it?
All right, so this is a part of the recommendation and you've added on, so there's no amendments. We'll just have it as one and someone will move it. That it be recommended to council to adopt the pesticide use bylaw number 1995, and that staff implement a reactive enforcement of the bylaw and conduct an education and information campaign for 2024, and that staff reach out to community groups that have an environmental focus to assist with community education, and further that commercial stakeholders and pesticide distributors be notified of Colwood's pesticide bylaw.
Thank you, Amanda. Can I get a motion? Pamela? And all those in favor? I keep changing the way I call. And that's carried and unanimous. Thank you very much, Gord. Moved by Pamela. So we move on to 5.2 in the agenda. Desiree Givens, planner for City of Colwood, was presenting bylaw number 17-10, official community plan amendment, environmental development permit area. Oh, right. Sorry. Was going to have the letter written. Say, Kimberly, is it? Or Kimberly, yeah. And just hit that little red little button on the microphone stand. Yeah, and you did talk to me earlier. You'd like a little extra minute or so to read this?
Yes, if I
Okay.
can have just an extra minute, I think I might need 3 minutes instead of 2.
3 instead of 2 for sure. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kimberly Doyle, and I am here on behalf of Scenic, reading a letter that Carol Brown submitted from Scenic. So Citizens Environment Network in Colwood, Scenic, wishes to support agenda item 5.2, bylaw number 1700-10, official community plan amendment, environmental development permit area. We wish to see our OCP strengthened in its ability to protect the urban tree canopy and intact ecosystems of lands to be developed. Scenic is aware of a strong call by many citizens to do more to protect our trees, riparian areas, and ecosystems. There is a desire to do business differently from some of the ways of the past. Many recognize the attempts of the City of Colwood to give respect to our natural environment and pay attention to what climate change requires us all to do today. There is a desire among Colwood citizens to protect our trees, reduce blasting, and provide for intact ecosystems. Many realize that this will protect us better from heat, flooding, and drought. We need to do what we can while we can. The South Island is a desirable place to live and will attract those who wish to help us build and develop a healthy community. Developments can be built with less blasting, more trees, and respect for ecosystems. It can be done if we are determined to make it happen. We support the points mentioned. Owners should agree with the city that irrespective of the issuance of an environment development permit, the lands shall not be cleared, blasted, or built upon unless and until the city is in receipt of a building permit application for the site and the city provides written authorization to proceed with the land alterations. Adding a new regulation to prohibit the removal of protected trees located on a property within an environmental development permit area until a tree management permit is issued for the property. Clarifying and strengthening the design guidelines for riparian areas to support implementation and align more strongly with provincial and federal legislation. And establish a standard for collecting security deposits with environmental development permits. We also support the concept of the city having a contract arborist to assist the city with their decision-making. We understand the importance of including all voices at the table and respecting the opinions of professionals and developers in our community. They have knowledge and expertise to offer in decision-making. There are issues to work out with the wording of the amendment, such as how will geotechnical tests be performed without limited tree removal, or the limited exemptions for grandfathered properties pertaining to riparian regulations. Details such as these may require further deliberation. But in the end, the goal of the amendment is to ensure strong protection for our tree canopy, riparian areas, and ecosystems in Colwood. Scenic recognizes that there is a housing crisis in Canada at the present time, and Greater Victoria is a much desired location in our country. This cannot, however, be a reason for environmental degradation. It may take a day to clear cut a building lot in Colwood, but a lifetime to replace the trees. Up to 200 saplings are needed to create the climate benefits of only one mature tree. The maximum benefits to natural ecosystems come from larger, older trees with sizable roots and canopies. Thank you for this opportunity to support the proposed OCP amendment, Environment Development Permit Area. We applaud you for your leadership. We need community environmental stewardship, but we also need our elected community officials to set the course and guide us in our community quest for a healthy future. Thank you for proposing and discussing this amendment.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. So Desiree, I think you're ready for you now. That'd be great.
Thank you, and pleasure to meet you, committee members. I'm Desiree, and I'm here to present on the OCP amendments for the riparian development permit areas. So I'll just briefly summarize and provide some context for the project. This project began as a result of legislative changes to the riparian areas protection regulation that were introduced in 2019 after the OCP was adopted in 2018. In the summer of 2023, the project launched with a review of the existing guidelines, and we retained a third-party qualified environmental professional to help provide some recommendations to improve our guidelines. In the fall, staff prepared an amending bylaw to implement several of the consultant's recommendations, and the proposed bylaw 1700-10, was introduced to the Planning and Land Use Committee in December before being introduced or forwarded to Council for first and second reading in January. A public hearing was also held in January, in which we heard from several qualified professionals and community members about the need to hit pause and allow for a period of consultation on the amendments before proceeding with third reading. In response to this, staff have went to Council to seek direction on next steps and to propose a 2-month consultation period with the general public, the development committee, and they also added the environment committee. So that's why we're here before you today to summarize some of the proposed recommendations to amend the OCP bylaw or OCP. And today's presentation will focus on just summarizing what the key changes are. So there are several changes that are proposed in this bylaw. I won't go through all of them. Some of them are housekeeping in nature, so those could be found in the agenda or in your meeting package. However, I will highlight the key changes to all sections, starting with section number 18. So within section number 18, 18.2 proposes that the city require a building permit be submitted before land clearing or alteration activities take place. It also requires that a tree management permit be applied for before the removal of any protected trees on a lot. Within section 19, there's 3 main changes. So within section 19.2, the exemptions are being updated. First, we are categorizing the exemptions based off of land use, based off of development application type and natural hazard. We are also removing and consolidating and adding exemptions to provide more clarity for the user's document or for the document's users. We're also reducing any redundancies, or if there's any overlap or redundancies, we're consolidating where appropriate. And then we are adding and removing exemptions in order to provide a little bit more flexibility and to align more strongly with provincial legislation. We are also adding in a new section called 19.4, where and when environmental DPA guidelines apply. So this is mostly to clarify that riparian development permit is required even in riparian areas that are not identified in figure 18. So in accordance with the provincial legislation, an environmental DP would be required anytime development is proposed within the what is called the riparian area assessment, or riparian area assessment, which is 30 meters on either side of a stream. And then we're also adding section 19.5. This is to help formalize the city's framework for collecting securities for environmental development permits. So currently, when an environmental development permit is issued, we collect the security in the amount of 110% of the cost estimate from the qualified environmental professional. And adding this section just kind of lays out the use of those securities, how we will return them, when they can be requested for return, and all those sorts of things that we're already practicing right now, just a formal process. And then the main changes with the OCP amendments is to section 20. So just to summarize, section 20 is being divided into 2 separate subsections, 20A and 20B. 20A will be riparian and 20B will be marine. So this is just to help separate and distinguish the two sets of guidelines. There are no changes that are being proposed to the marine guidelines. However, there's a comprehensive set of amendments that are being proposed to the riparian area riparian area guidelines based off of the recommendations from the qualified environmental professional. So I won't go into all of the details of what's being proposed. I will just highlight again the key changes that are happening to the riparian area design guidelines. So first and foremost is that we are requiring any riparian development permit to be accompanied by provincial approval before being issued a permit. So currently the OCP only requires that an application be submitted to the province. However, with the changes to the riparian legislation, the province can now withhold notification to the local governments and request that applications be amended before being given approval. So this update is just to ensure that we first receive approval from the province before we issue the DP. The other change is that we are now requiring that the riparian buffer be flagged on site. We're requiring split rail fencing to demarcate SBA. This is something that could be a little bit more flexible. We could encourage it instead. And then we're also providing a framework for how to deal with cases of undue hardship. Again, this was something that was introduced with the 2019 provincial legislation. It essentially has to do with riparian areas that are on existing lots that are not compliant with the legislation. So a case of undue hardship exempts those types of properties from requiring a riparian DP as long as they go through the province's provincial requirements for dealing with undue hardship, which is included in the guidelines. And then last, we are encouraging compliance with other regulations in federal legislation, such as the Wildlife Act and the just the Wildlife Act and some others as well. And lastly, we're removing the guideline that permits trails within the riparian buffer, as this is no longer permitted under wrapper. In terms of next steps, we are going to be seeking a consultation or conducting a consultation period over the next 2 months. So the hope is that we'll have a consultation plan kind of set up in the next couple weeks and launch consultation in March. And then we'll return to Planning and Land Use Committee as well as Environment Committee with an update on their engagement results. And then Bylaw 1700-10 will be amended and given third reading as amended and then adopted. And so today, we're happy to hear any comments that you have, or if you have any questions. And yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Desiree. It's fabulous. I think this is a bit tricky because of a couple of elements. I'll make a couple questions first. In the public hearing, I understood quite a weighty objection by development community about the fact that when you require the building permit to happen, there's a couple of consequences. One being that if you need to enter the site to do test pits, which are required, to design foundations to get approvals from the building permit, the building inspectors through the geotechnical studies, that requires a certain amount of tree cutting and road building to get the heavy equipment, drilling equipment, etc., into the sites. Coupled with that is that can perhaps touch on the financing aspects that they're faced with at that point for moving the project forward. And if they're looking at smaller sites over a larger project of some acres, I suppose, that the overall scope of that site and the ability to level it efficiently and study it and plan indeed the roads, etc., conflicts with the idea of that getting in and cutting trees only for. Can you comment on that and how this bylaw perhaps accounts for or allows them access? And can you just add to that?
Thank you for the question. I think that is definitely something that we could look into fixing as we move through the consultation process. I think currently that is an issue with the bylaw and the way it is worded. It would create some challenges with respect to allowing for the lots to be cleared or investigated and for studies to be done. So I think going forward, we could look at amending the language to allow a little bit more flexibility. For example, maybe permitting lot clearing on just a small portion of the lot, not the entire one, or I guess
For
we'll
access.
look into solutions in the next phase here.
Right, for access. So it'd be, I think I hear you saying that we can accommodate that, because I would just expect that in this period of further consultation and input that you'll be hearing more along those lines. And there is one related suggestion. This came in from a letter from a citizen, actually, and it's along the lines of what I was thinking, but worded it so well that the one adjustment to the wording and the recommendation, which I know is already going forward, but is that the qualified environmental professionals, I see here it's worded qualified professionals. I think the word environment professionals, actually QEP is the known title, and that would be reworded so that the staff conduct additional consultation over a 2-month period with qualified environmental professionals, the general public, Colwood Environment Committee, and the development community on the proposed amendments to and so forth, just to separate them out. To this person's point being that qualified environmental professionals operate completely separate from the development community. That the way it's worded, it sounds like they are on staff with, and I was thinking that that might clarify a little bit that it's a separate group. It's just a suggestion, I guess, but be a requirement to amend that a little bit, the order of the wording.
Yes,
It's not a
certainly. I
question,
think the wording is, yeah, I think we weren't intending for the qualified environmental professionals to be included as being representatives of developers. We were seeing them as being more third party neutral as well as,
Yeah.
and just.
It's just a little tweaking of the wording to make it clear that they are not part of development. I think that was the intent of that suggestion. And so I would, I don't even know how I do this. I would suggest that that change be made, a recommendation for that to happen. Anyway, before that, maybe we'll go ahead with anyone else's comments. Karen, Lois, Pam, Devin, anyone? Okay, here we go. Pam.
Oh, I think Lois went first. I don't know if you're gonna get Lois first.
Sorry. Well, just leave your mic on then. Okay, Lois, why don't you take the mic?
Sure. While you have that letter in front of you, David, I wonder if she I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name of the person who's presenting. Is that Desiree?
Yes, Desiree.
I wonder if Desiree has a copy of that letter as well. There was something raised in there about something being an onerous requirement that might arise for homeowners, where if they wanted to put a sun deck on a rocky outcropping, that they would have to go through all of these expensive procedures. And my reading of the document that we saw was that things like, as long as it didn't represent more than 40% of the property in question, that those requirements wouldn't be in place. So in other words, for the average kind of development that a homeowner might attempt, it probably would either be grandfathered in or wouldn't be subject to these requirements. So Desiree, could you comment on that?
Thank you, Lois. I'll just interject that she just received the letter now, a copy, and so I don't need to put you on the spot, but would you have comment to add to that, or at this point?
Yes, I think I believe that would be covered under a case of undue hardship. So that process allows for existing structures to be exempt. I think, I apologize. I think I'm gonna have to look a little bit more into this one. I don't have an answer right offhand, but it is something that we can definitely investigate as we move forward with preparing the amendments.
Thank you, Desiree. Evelyn, you're next.
Thank you. I thought I had read somewhere along the line something about if there's a development going on and they rip out trees, that they have to make then payment to the municipality, and then what happens to the funds from there?
Thank you for the question. So are you referring to the security deposits that we collect? Yes, so usually a security deposit is held for a period of 2 years, and we refund that deposit once we receive a report from the QEP saying that all of the environmental restoration works have been installed in accordance with the conditions of the permit. So it'll get returned to the applicant. Usually it's a period of 1 to 2 years after we receive that completion report, but the specific details are on a case-by-case basis, and that'll be outlined in the condition section of a permit. If it's refundable.
Thank you. Okay. Amanda, the rewording, the tweaking came from Judith Collington's letter. It's in the paragraph second from the bottom of the first page, or sorry, the last paragraph of the last page of second page.
So I see that. I'm not sure what we're amending because there isn't a recommendation in front of the committee.
So we make the recommendation and then we can amend it. Sorry?
Is that, so there isn't one on the agenda that's been recommended to the committee? We don't have one to start with.
Oh,
So
cool.
I just wondered, like,
Yeah, right.
it says that she's tweaking it. So I'm not clear.
Yeah, okay. So I guess, yeah, right. I see what you mean. Right. That sort of went over my head because this is already, we're already in the process of the 2-month further consultation. So we're not looking for an amendment or any recommendation to do that. We're already doing it. I think that given that there's nothing to do anyway. Oh, good. We're going to get bailed out here by Josh.
I think staff understand the intent of that letter.
Yeah.
And we'll conduct ourselves in that manner.
That's fabulous. That's all I needed to hear, really, I think, for myself. Devin?
Yeah.
Why? Sorry. Can you hang up your mic, see if that helps? When maybe Devin comes in. There we go. Thank you.
I have some thoughts for Desiree based on her presentation, and thanks for sharing that with us as well put together. The first thing I would just suggest was it seems like you have the idea that the boundaries will be flagged in the field. Is it possible to get those boundaries when they're flagged in the field digitized too, so that they're going to the the geo database for whatever analysis that or future reference? Don't need a decision now, but just a suggestion.
Yes, we can certainly look into it. I think the qualified environmental professionals would be the ones flagging the SPIA. So I think as long as that information is available, we can look into a solution to make sure that it's available digitally as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then the second thing is when you bring in the qualified professional, I imagine, or maybe this is an assumption, that they would be doing an assessment of the water body itself, whether it's a fish-bearing stream or a sensitive ecosystem to species at risk. And then I imagine the buffering would be, kind of prorated, a lack of a better word, to that the sensitivity. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. And maybe go to Karen for first kick at the can there.
Thank you. I think on this committee, we are not QEPs, so I don't want to hammer out the details of the recommendation, but I fully support a broad recommendation with qualified environmental professionals. And while, yes, they are responsible to their organizing body, registered biologists, they are also, as Councillor Day pointed out at the council meeting, they are hired by developers. And when I sat in on the public hearing, the response from public participation came, I would say, primarily from QEPs working for developers. I think it's so important to look at the context of a situation, why you're making changes, when a community's official community plan does not reflect the vision for the community, yes, changes have to be made, and we should be very, very careful in making them and invite the community in, and maybe even Indigenous participation, like Francis that you mentioned, David, who gave the very moving acknowledgement at the arts and culture opening. I think there's nothing wrong. No one wants to get bogged down in consultation. I understand that. But to take the time to make decisions that are going to address the problems is a good investment, I think. And so, Desiree, my question, I'm guessing that these housekeeping fixes to the OCP were a result of some developments gone not in the direction as expected. And I will say the development on the top of Havenwood, which was clear cut and left empty. And I would also give the example of 18 Cedars, recently cut very close to Latoria Creek Park. And in that case, the province actually overrode the municipal tree bylaw. So I guess I'm looking for a consultation that will ensure we get what is in the public interest, that supports our climate action plan, and that we can abide by without, I know the developers say, we want to take care of the environment, and that's great. I believe they do, but maybe that means lower aspirations for density. Because when I look at North Latoria as the next one coming up, 672 units to replace a dozen homes on large lots seems a little over the top. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I don't know if there was a question in there, but Desiree, do you have anything to add to what you heard? Or I'm just giving you the opportunity. Feel free to say no.
Sorry, no, I don't have anything to add, but thank you, Karen. Those are all really great points, and we'll take that into consideration.
Right, and intent is there, I believe, and the suggestion that the QEPs at the public hearing were in fact hired by developers. I can't confirm that or deny it, but if anybody in the room can say so, I don't know. I think the two that stand to mind that came to the mic on several occasions and had done a detailed review of the plan, I believe were acting on their own, but I don't know that for sure. It's a bit of a question mark to me. I think that the notion is that the qualified environmental professionals do operate independently and are answerable to the ethics of their profession, presumably. So anyhow, that is a point well taken, and it's definitely heard. Lois, do you have something to say? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to support what Karen said about inviting the Indigenous community. They have a lot of ancient wisdom about how the ecology works in this area. I don't know who else has been or would be included in this next step of consultation, but I'm hoping that they would be invited. The question that I wanted to ask, it's just a curiosity. Around the riparian areas and the reference to streams streams and riverbeds, and we're in a drought period right now, which is expected to be ongoing. And so it becomes, in my mind, a little bit fuzzy as to, you know, how do you deal with the dry riverbeds? Are they still considered within that riparian area, or is there some consideration given to, well, you know, those areas are never going to resume being stream beds? Like, how will those areas be evaluated going forward if we continue in a drought situation?
Thank you for the question. I believe we'd be looking to the definition of stream that is used in the riparian area protection regulation. So it might include areas that are not currently like that are just seasonally dry, or I believe it's as long as it's connected to fish bearing habitat. But we'd be looking to the definition of stream that's used in legislation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? We don't have a recommendation here, so we have nothing to vote on here, I take it. It's been, we could make a recommendation. We could put forward one. If any of you are interested, I don't have anything to add myself to what's there. We did talk about the slight change in the wordings, and we're assured the intent of that letter is taken into consideration, and that's works for me. Is it? Yeah. Question? No question, Pamela?
On the qualified environmental professionals, could there be a process whereby the municipality assigns them for a, given permit request? So that way it's ensured that they're.
At what point does the
not
city
on
hire a
payroll?
QAP? Would that be something the staff would require extra? I think jumping in.
Thank you for the question. So we did hire a QEP at the start of this project, and we'd be potentially open to re-engaging that QEP just to have to kind of verify and double check the input that we received. And we will be inviting all QEPs, like we'll put together a contact list of all the QEPs in the region that work within Colwood and that work outside of Colwood. So just to ensure that we're getting a diverse range of QEPs that are able to speak on the issue.
So they wouldn't be paid directly by the builder. It could be like the builder could pay the city, who would then assign, so that way it's ensured that they're not on the payroll of the people who are wanting to develop. I guess that's what I'm asking, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think that makes sense. No, I believe the intent is that they are being invited into this public participation process on their own time, and that they're not being compensated for that. I can't say for sure. Yeah, I believe if that is something that the committee would like, then we can look into retaining from a specific set of QAPs. But currently, we're just diverse, casting the net far and wide, and seeing who responds.
Thank you. Hey, any more or anyone interested in? Sorry. Oh, someone, Karen. I'm sorry. Your hand is up. Go for it.
Thank you, David. I want to point out that a group called RUSH, Resilient Urban Systems and Habitats, is presenting to Council February 26th. So I consider that part of this consultation. And the value that I've seen their presentation and the value they bring, I think, is that they are a mapping project through all of Southern Ireland. And they show that ecosystems are interconnected. So we have municipal boundaries, which are false by nature doesn't abide by those boundaries. So I think the decisions we make today, like a question I always ask myself is, what am I doing to be a good ancestor? And the decisions we make today about the future of Colwood are going to create the foundation of life for future generations. Later is too late. Nature-based solutions are fundamental to climate action. Cities are busy trying to restore and rebuild green spaces. And so I hope that we will take the time and afford the respect and value to the natural assets we have that they deserve. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Very well said. Anyone else? If that's a question for Kimberly. I think maybe it's okay if you could. Thank you very much, Desiree. Appreciate it. I think we're fulfilled it. Devin has a question for you. So,
Okay.
Hi, Kimberly. Thanks for reading the letter to us. I just got a question about, is the really crux of this letter about the blasting and pre-development work that is happening? Is that really the most important piece of this letter? I just trying to wrap my brain around the whole concept of a development and environmental permit.
Well, this letter was compiled by Carol Brown and on behalf of Scenic. I think, yes, the blasting was one of the things, the trees, taking the trees down, the clear cutting of the trees, the two projects that Karen, mentioned along Havenwood Park, like right next adjacent to Havenwood Park, and the clear cutting of those trees, and the fact that the land was left for so long, still is, with no development, but all those trees, mature trees taken down. That was, I think, one of the things that is driving our concern. I think the other thing, I would love to see it's something that Pam mentioned about the making sure that the and I'm gonna mess up the term, the development, what is
the QEP?
The QEPs are actually independent. I think that is of utmost importance that we make sure. I think I wasn't here for the public hearing, but I saw some of the notes, and it seems like there may have been some of these QEPs who had interests that kind of aligned more with a developer than an environmental protector. So if we can do something like, as Pam suggested, with an independent QEP or arborist or something, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I would probably say if there's suspicion that there's too much alignment with the developer, probably raise it with the QEP. And if you don't get a reasonable response, that you can always go to the college or the registrar that kind of regulates them and say that, you don't believe that they're meeting their ethics obligations or whatnot. So that's the whole thing with the qualified professional, is that they have a body that governs their conduct. Even though they get paid by a developer or whatnot, they're still first and foremost have to meet these ethic requirements. So that would be I was just trying to understand this here, and just offering a suggestion if you feel that the ethics are not being properly represented.
Thank you, Devin. I will just add that there's in the letter from Judith Collington, qualified environmental professionals are independent individuals whose job is to protect the public interest, not the developers, as set out in the Professional Governance Act. She then makes a personal note that she has personal experience with that reality and can attest to the fact that individuals who do not meet those obligations do face some consequences. So I'm not sure that it's a good idea to sit here and assume that we can make that judgment that we're speaking or concluding on behalf of one or the other. But I just should suspect that the QEPs are also looking at the applicable realities of development and as it applies. If an area is approved for development or is zoned for development, there's a point where you have to say yes, and there's a point where you say no, and we're trying to find that line. And I feel like very much that with this issue right now, we're trying to move the line toward a more environmentally progressive position, if you want to call it that, or move it in the way of protecting wetlands and trees as established. So I don't feel comfortable myself getting into the argument about the positions of QAPs, but rather looking at what they produce and what they recommend. And the fact that they work for the developer, or perhaps the city, or perhaps contribute as a response to our invitation to speak to. And as their interest lies in the fact that they work in this city, then that's where they would make contribution. Pamela?
I think you kind of covered it. I mean, I think just, I think the appearance of being objective is, obviously
Sure.
really important. And I think it's always going to be suspect if
Yeah.
somebody's on somebody else's payroll.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah. Anyone else like to comment or otherwise? Oh, do we have someone? No. Does she? Oh, you know what? The little yellow hand is on against the yellow on that piece of painting behind your. It's a very beautiful painting, but I can't. But Karen, please.
Thanks, David. What I'd like to suggest to Desiree is that in the broad-based consultation, she invites, or council invites, Deborah Curran, who is a legal specialist in municipal green bylaws, as part of that consultation, so that we can really get a good understanding of what's within our rights and what is typical and what is the best approach going forward. There's another group called Stewardship Center BC that offers courses on green bylaws. They have one this Thursday. Because what I've been reading is there's a lot of concern about the housing crisis, as it should be. But the homes that are being built are not necessarily affordable homes. So, for instance, View Royal is asking a lot of questions about Bill 44. They're asking for an audit of Bill 44. So I really suggest that we invite some environmental law expertise into the consultation process. Thanks.
I think that we hear that now. Is that a recommendation? Is that something I need to formalize? Recommend to council that they open that up. I think Karen agrees that that should be so. So I could ask that Karen, then you're making a recommendation that the city of Colwood, I'm not good at wording these things, include qualified environmental professionals in the consultation. Is that what you're saying? No. Can you word it? Pardon, Amanda?
That the city of Colwood invite consultation with the UVic Environmental Law Department to ascertain roles, responsibilities. Amanda, you're probably better at this than I am. I know you are.
I always fall back on Amanda.
Well, it's expertise.
You started off strong with, and I would think, can you go into the second part of what you were saying, Karen?
Okay, that as part of the consultation process, City of Colwood consult with Deborah Curran, UVic Environmental Law Director, to create to ensure the best approach going forward.
Yeah, so I understand the UVic Law Department is available for speaking to and helping out in municipalities and so on, many people. So I don't know, do we mention the specific person? Deborah Curran or?
Deborah is the specialist in municipal regulations.
Oh yeah, I see. So sorry. Devin.
Does it Just thinking out loud there with you, Karen, does it make sense to like maybe make the recommendation that Colwood develops a criteria for engaging qualified environmental professionals? And then that, given that criteria, that kind of the trigger for to bringing them into the conversation?
Well, I'm not sure, Devin, because they're sort of two different things. She isn't a biologist, she's a lawyer. But the reason I put this forward is there's a rezoning coming up in our neighborhood, and we've gone to 2 public hearings on it. And what the developer keeps saying is, Bill 44, we can put up as many houses as we want. So I think, I don't believe Colwood is on the list of municipalities that have been told they need to increase their density. And certainly we've met those requirements with Royal Bay and now Beachlands. And so it's a bit of a red herring to me to say, Bill 44 lets us do whatever we want. So what I'm asking for is legal advice for the OCP, for the municipality, on where we stand as far as Bill 44. How can we protect the natural assets in our community? Just a small question.
You've stirred someone from their chair in the name of Ian Burhill. Thank you, Ian. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that question. So the city is embarking on a process to update our zoning official community plan and procedures to meet the requirements of the new legislation from the province. We will be undertaking as much public engagement as feasible in the tight timelines that are upon us. So the committee can look forward to us bringing forward some information that would answer some of the questions posed today.
Thank you.
Does that help you, Karen? So we are still, though, grinding about the recommendation here today for specific to this particular bylaw. Are we? To receive legal advice on how this is interpreted or structured, rather?
Well, I think, David, that Ian's probably addressed that. And as I understand it, we're just supporting the recommendation today for broad-based consultation.
Yes. So, sorry.
So if we could add UVic environmental law as one of the someone to outreach to, I would feel good about that.
Mandy, can you tell us where we are on this recommendation now?
Okay, so I think that the end part you might want to say a little bit better, but that the City of Call would invite Deborah Curran, Director of Professional Environmental Studies and Law at UVic, to ensure the best approach going forward. But I'm sure I could say it a little bit better than that.
Amanda, she's Director of UVic Environmental Law Department.
Okay. So this recommendation will go to council with as a result of this meeting, and we'll have this and then we'll go from there. If we got something to vote on here. Karen seems satisfied with the ending, Amanda, as written.
Thank you.
Is everyone satisfied that you know what we're voting on? If we have a motion, Karen, are you making a motion that we, I guess, motion from Karen Woodland that we accept this recommendation? All those in favor? I kind of like it. And that's passed, unanimous. Boy, that was good. That was kind of fun. I think that's good. If everyone's satisfied that we moved it forward in a positive way. It is fun. It's a good thing anyway to have this opportunity. And I thank everyone, staff and so on, for being here to support us in this process, as well as the members of the committee. At this point, I call for adjournment. Motion to adjourn. Anyone? Motion to adjourn. There we go. Devon. And all those in favor? Yeah. Yeah, carried. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.